Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It's Tuesday. I hope the week is going well and you're kind of over the disappointment of yesterday. I was gutted yesterday, I have to admit it. You could probably tell when you were listening to my show, even though I was trying my best to hide it. I was pretty devastated yesterday, I have to say, despite having already made my peace with the fact before the game that the title was going to be ending up at Manchester City. Still struggled a little bit to get over with, but I'm feeling a bit better today. Obviously, time is a healer and all that. We can already start to look forward to what's going to be a really, really good season next season. I'm absolutely, as I said yesterday, convinced next season is going to be a very, very special one for Arsenal. Still plenty to talk about today. We've got news on Nuno Tavares, Pedro Neto, of course, a player Arsenal have been linked with in the past, Benjamin Sesko, a player that Arsenal are very much looking at for the now. His agent has been talking about what's going on with him this summer. So we'll look at what he's had to say. Got some questions and comments from you guys as well. So let's get started, shall we? And we'll start with Benjamin Sesko, who we've spoken about a fair bit on this channel in recent weeks. He's a player who is certainly in the headlines when it comes to Arsenal, not just Arsenal, but many, many clubs across Europe at the moment, given the way his season ended at Leipzig, scoring plenty of goals and generating plenty of headlines. Now, Arsenal are very much on the lookout for a new forward this summer. Again, not a very well-kept secret. And Sesko is one of the players they're looking at. He's not the only player they're looking at, but he's one of the players that they are looking at. And Sesko's agent has been doing the rounds. Been at Arsenal, he's been at Chelsea, he's been at Manchester United, been elsewhere in Europe as well. So he's been doing the rounds, talking to interested clubs about potentially moving this summer. It's not a given. He's got a release clause. That release clause has gone up to about 60 million euros. I believe it was initially about 40 million euros. Because of the way he's ended the season, though, and the amount of goals he scored, that triggered something in his contract which raised the release clause. So it's gone up to about 60, maybe 65 million euros. I can't remember the exact figure off the top of my head now. But that's not put off a lot of clubs. There's still lots of clubs that are interested in him. But RB Leipzig are not going to give up without a fight. And it sounds like they are doing their very best to get him to sign a new contract at the moment to protect their asset. But his agent has been speaking to the Slovenian media. As you can imagine, over in Slovenia, Sesko's future is a real hot topic of debate right now. He's an absolute superstar over there, especially given the fact he might be on the move to some really, really big clubs. So his agent sat down with the media over there, and this is part of what he has had to say. He said, I can say that Benjamin is being considered by both Premier League and Serie A, but out of respect, I can't mention the names of the clubs, even though he's been posting pictures on social media of him at Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea. We are talking about top clubs, he said. We have to realise that Benjamin is currently in a top club. There are very few people who realise just how big a club Leipzig is. There are certainly eventful weeks ahead. Benjamin has more opportunities at the end of this season, but that's his decision. We will suggest what is best for his long-term development. Leipzig are trying extremely hard to keep Benjamin. They have their arguments on the side of development. They are also a big club with excellent conditions. They have strong cards. Healthy development has priority over the economic side. He then said, when he was asked about Serie A clubs specifically, because AC Milan are a club that are very much looking at him. He says it's difficult for Italy to afford him at the moment. I said a lot with that, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. The decision is up to Benjamin. It is our duty to bring him offers. There's been interest from Saudi Arabia in Sesko as well, but that appears to be ruled out now by the agent. He says, I can confirm that there is interest, but at the same time, Benjamin will not leave Europe under any circumstances, at least not right now. So some interesting stuff there, I thought, from Sesko's agent. I thought the bit about Leipzig, where he says they have strong arguments on their side of the development. They are also a big club with excellent conditions. They have strong cards. Healthy development has priority over the economic side. So basically saying, look, it's not all about money. He's still a very, very young striker. We don't necessarily have to move now. He could stay, he could sign a new contract at Leipzig, continue to develop there, and then in the next 2 or 3 years make his big move, which is a really good, sensible decision, to be honest. Could be a good, sensible decision, to be honest. You don't always have to rush out to big clubs just because they're circling when you're very, very young. But if Arsenal try, if they decide to press the button on Sesko, which is far from a given at this stage, but if they do, then You know, they're going to have to hit that release clause and then wait and see what happens. But I don't think it's, I don't think anything's set in stone when it comes to Sesko yet this summer. He could easily stay at Leipzig. He could easily sign a new deal. There'll be lots of people looking at that, saying that's probably the most sensible option he could take right now. But we shall wait and see. But let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Arsenal striker sort of decisions that Mikel Arteta's got to face and Edu's got to face when it comes to signing a striker this summer in a video later on this week. Because I think it's a really interesting point in terms of what do you do? What sort of striker do you go for? Where does Kai Havertz come into all this? I think it's a really interesting debate ahead of the summer. But let me know your thoughts on Sesko and the striker situation in the comments below. Okay, moving on, we've got another big exit from Arsenal following on from Mohamed El-Neni and Raul Walters, who have both released statements in recent days confirming their exits. Cedric Soares now the next one to follow suit. He put out a statement yesterday on his social media channels saying, what a team and what a club. When I say a team, I mean exactly that. Quality in every player, the professionalism that you show, and the amazing human beings you guys are. So thank you. When I say club, I mean all the departments, all the staff that is constantly putting all the hard hours on and off the pitch to make it possible to fight at the highest level. When I say club, it also means its heart. And with this, I mean you guys, the fans that made this journey so unreal and unforgettable. So to all the fans, I thank you. You will always have a special place in my heart. Arsenal, come on, you Gunners. Nice little statement there from Cedric Soares as he confirms his exit after 4 years. Look, he's had a very good 4 years out of Arsenal. He's made a lot of money out of Arsenal. You can't blame him for that. The contract was put on the table and he signed it. And we'd all done exactly the same thing if he was in the same position. Has he been a massive success on the pitch? No, you have to say he hasn't. But he's been a really popular member of the squad. He's been really popular behind the scenes. He's been a real professional behind the scenes. Even though he hasn't played much, he's never, ever, from what I've heard, shirked his responsibility when it comes to training at the highest possible level, which is what Mikel Arteta absolutely demands from his squad players. It's not just about being there on the bench to come on when needed. It's about maintaining the levels, the highest of levels when it comes to training as well, so that those players who are in the first team and playing regularly are being tested at the highest level in training. Because if you've got a squad who are just going through the paces behind the scene in training, that is going to lower the standards in the actual sessions itself. And Arteta absolutely demands those sessions are of the highest standard. And players like Cedric, Mohamed El-Neni, although they haven't played that much on the pitch, behind the scenes, they have done their part. And they've been really, really sort of well appreciated because of that. So look, good luck to Cedric. It'll be interesting to see what he's going to do now. He's had interest in him over the last couple of years. He's not gone anywhere, but there has been interest in him. I know that for a fact. Sevilla was certainly very interested in him. I know the clubs in Portugal were interested in taking him back. There was interest from Turkey as well. Galatasaray very, very close to making a move for Cedric in the January transfer window before they moved for Sacha Boey instead. So interesting to see where he goes. I'm sure he'll go to a decent club. He'll get a good few years left in his career right now, but his time at Arsenal has come to an end, as he says in this statement. Moving on to Pedro Neto now, from one Portuguese international to another. Pedro Neto, a player that we all know Arsenal have admired for quite some time now. Is this going to be the summer that Pedro Neto leaves Wolves? I will suggest it probably will be. Will it be to Arsenal? I don't know. But apparently 60 million is the figure that Wolves will accept for Pedro Neto. Newcastle, Manchester United, believed to be sniffing around him as well this summer. Player I really, really like. I think he'd be absolutely perfect for Arsenal, Pedro Neto, if, and it's a big if, those injuries were just not around. With Neto, I've always let sort of my heart rule my head when it comes to Neto, and I've kind of ignored the consistent hamstring injuries that he's had over the last couple of seasons, because I just think, when he's fit, he's so good and be so perfect for this Arsenal team. I have to admit, the last one he suffered towards the end of this season made me really start to think twice about signing him, because there would just be nothing worse than spending that sort of money and then sort of 3-4 times a season you're without him for sort of 6-week periods because of these hamstring injuries. Now, you don't know for sure that will happen. He could come to Arsenal, be injury-free, and prove to be a wonderful signing. But it has to be taken into account. And I have to admit, for the first time in a while, I'm wavering when it comes to Pedro Neto, and my thoughts that Arsenal should try and sign him. 60 million, it's not huge. Oh, it sounds stupid, doesn't it? 60 million, not huge amounts of money. Of course it is. It's massive money, absolutely ridiculous amounts of money. But in modern football, you look at it and think 60 million, that's not too bad actually for a player of Neto's age and his quality. But those injury issues, you've got to take them into account. That whole phrase that we all know in terms of the best predictor of future injuries is previous injuries, and Neto's got a long, long list of them. So it'll be interesting to see what clubs, if any, do push the boat out and really try and bring Neto in the summer, or if the injuries will mean he could well stay at Wolves. But 60 million, that is a figure. What do you think? 60 million, good deal or not? Would you be doing that if you're Arsenal? Is that the sort of money you'd be paying for someone like Neto with those injuries? Let me know in the comments below. Now, Nuno Tavares, he's coming back to Arsenal. It's been confirmed by Nottingham Forest now that they are not going to trigger that option. They've announced a statement today. Nottingham Forest are revealing what players are going where in terms of loan players and everything else, and who's leaving at the end of the contracts. And listed in there is Nuno Tavares, who they say is returning to Arsenal. So they're not taking up that permanent option. No surprise, he's had an injury-littered season. There was times when he started getting a good run in the sides just after Nuno replaced Steve Cooper as manager. Tavares got back into the team and was doing all right, but then he got an injury and that sort of disrupted things completely. And so it was no real surprise at the end of that. They sent him home, and Arsenal have to decide what to do with him. Now, they had a chance. They were actually hoping Notts Forest were going to send him back in January, and there were discussions to try and do that because Marseille were looking at signing him on a permanent basis. He'd obviously been there on loan previously. That didn't happen. I think Marseille went out and signed another left back anyway. So you'd imagine that door is now closed on the possibility of Tavares going there. But Arsenal will be looking to sell Nuno. I'm absolutely sure of it this summer. It's just a case of whether they get any offers and whether those offers are suitable or not. If not, you'd imagine it's going to be another loan. But there's no, I can't see any way that Tavares comes back and has a future at Arsenal. It would just be a case of trying to get the best deal possible for him this summer. Right, moving on to some of your questions and comments now before we wrap this up. Here's one from JPZ who says, I would really like to see a Premier League proven player or two come to Arsenal this summer and come and replicate the impact that Rice, Havertz and Raya have had this season, become trusted in the starting 11 in their first season. Douglas Luiz, Brian Mbeumo. I tell you what, you're the first person I've ever seen mention Brian Mbeumo as a possible Arsenal player in the future. I love Brian Mbeumo. I think he's such a good player. I can't believe, I'm not saying he should sign for Arsenal, by the way, but I just think he's such a good player who goes under the radar. And I'm just really surprised that we haven't seen him linked with a host of clubs, because I just think all the talk of Brentford is about Ivan Toney. But whenever I watch Mbeumo play when he's fit, I think he was a bigger miss for them this season when he was injured than Toney was. I just think he's so good. He offers assists, goals, work rate. I think he's a fantastic player. But yeah, you list Douglas Luiz, Brian Mbeumo, Conor Gallagher, Jared Bowen, Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi. He says, I think each of these players tick multiple boxes for the type of profile Arteta likes: physicality, durability, size and aerial ability, pace, technical quality, versatility, mentality and age. Most of the transfer talk I see is always what position we need to strengthen and who plays the same position at another club we should buy. I would rather identify really good players who have the profile to fit at Arsenal. It's highly likely our play style will adapt once again this season. Rice in the 6 or the 8, Havertz in the 8 or the 9. Could Jesus be adapted to play 8? What about Saka in the 8 with Martinelli going to the right? What about Trossard in the 8 or the 9 with Havertz just behind? What is he going to do with White if Timber slots in at right back? Yeah, I mean, there's lots of options there for Mikel. I hope he doesn't tinker too much at the start of the season, though. I have to say, I've mentioned that before. I look at Arsenal's first half of the season this season, and I think a lot of the issues in terms of the why the football wasn't as free flowing as we saw in the second half of the season, why results weren't quite as good. I just think players were adjusting to a new club. A lot of players were new positions, new system. Arteta had changed things quite a bit from the previous year, and I don't really want to see that happen. We seem to have found this perfect way of playing at the moment that suits everyone. The team's playing really, really well. Confidence is there. I don't want to see that suddenly ripped up in the summer, especially in a summer that's going to be so disrupted with, major tournaments and players coming back later than the other. So you don't want them sort of being drip fed in at the end with no real pre-season and asked to do new things. I just think you just want continuity at the moment. Arsenal finished the season so well. Just let that momentum carry on into the new season without massive changes in terms of system and players and things like that. But yeah, some interesting ones there. Like I said, Morgan Gibbs-White is another player I think is fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he develops. Again, I'm not saying he should be a player for Arsenal, but I think he's a really, really good player. Douglas Luiz, we obviously know all about. Is one from Tommy. Says, hi, Charles. Big question. From the last game of the season, did Odegaard mean that assist to Kai? I felt at first he miskicked it, but after watching a few replays, I'm quite positive he actually meant that pass. A bit Henry-esque type feint. What do you think? Love your content. Watch it daily from Laos. Thank you very much, Tommy. I don't think he meant it. Do you? I don't know. Does anyone else think he meant that? I have to admit, every time I've watched it, I just think he got a little bit close to the goalkeeper and just kind of slashed at it a little bit, took his eye off the ball as the keeper came running out and closed him down. So I don't think he meant it. I wouldn't put it past Martin Odegaard. He's that type of player to do something like that. When you first look at it, you think there's no way he meant that. But then the more and more you do, you think, oh, maybe he did. But no, not for me. I think that was probably a bit fortunate, wasn't it? But let me know, you guys, if you agree with me or not, or if you think, like Tommy, that maybe that was a absolutely intentional piece of play from Martin Odegaard to set up Kai Havertz against Everton. Peter here says, I'm feeling very upbeat. I can't wait for the new season. Any news on Arteta's contract, Charles? Nothing to worry about, is there? Not in my view, no. I don't think there is anything to worry about. Like Arteta said recently, like I said previously to that, it was just something Arsenal were always going to wait until the end of the season to try and sort out, because so much was going on. All focus wanted to be on football. That was a directive from Arteta himself, and so he wasn't going to suddenly get himself in sort of slap bang in the middle of contract talks where there was so much going on, the time was on the line. Obviously that's now gone. I think Arteta is going to go away. He's probably already away already. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he will be going away with his family. He normally goes over to his sisters in Spain. He'll spend a couple of weeks over there, and then he'll come back. He'll sit down with Josh, with Edu, with Tim Lewis, and they'll get it all sorted out. So no, I don't think there's anything to worry about, but there's no immediate news on Arteta and these contract talks, but it's something I'm absolutely sure will be happening throughout the summer. During the summer, they will be sitting down and they'll trying to get the new deal thrashed out as quickly as possible, because you don't want any uncertainty, and you certainly don't want that when you're trying to convince players to come and sign for your club. Any sort of uncertainty over the manager's future is not going to help with that, and Arteta will be aware of that, and Arsenal will certainly be aware of that. Here's one quickly to Dominic, who I wanted to say, hope you're feeling all right, Dominic. I read this yesterday. He said, pain from yesterday coupled with pain from my shoulder surgery today. One of the medical people looking after me was a Spurs fan, and he was magnanimous enough to say that despite the final standings, Arsenal deserved the trophy. Made me feel better, and I thought it was very honest of him. Oh, it might have been a lady, actually. I'm a bit confused on details still. But wanted to show my support from your channel tonight, so listening as soon as possible. Thank you very much, Dominic. And I hope those heavy-duty painkillers have worn off now and your memory is coming back. And I hope you're feeling all right and the pain is beginning to lessen as well. So good luck in your recovery, Dominic. I'm sure you'll be back playing golf or doing tennis, whatever you do. And the shoulder will be right as rain as quickly as possible. All right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. As always, got a couple of extra shows coming during this week for you to look out for. One with James Benge, obviously inside Arsenal Extra Time, will be happening soon. I think I might well do that sort of end of season awards show with James, do a sort of combined thing like that. I've got a really exciting one coming up with Team News and Ticks, who I'm sure you're aware. If you don't, not aware of him already, is great insider knowledge and breaks really good stories. Team News and Ticks, and we're starting a bit of a combined thing. Hopefully the first of those shows will be coming a little bit later on in the week. I will update you on that as the week goes on, when we're absolutely sure on when the first show is going to go out, and we're going to want your questions for that show as well. So again, keep an eye out, listen out for some updates from me on that one. Until then, everyone, have a very good Tuesday. Enjoy your day. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. Bye-bye.